The Monster Hunter series has been a massive success in Japan, but it's always struggled to break into the western hemisphere of the world. With its hardcore grinding elements of killing oversized monsters for their loot to improve your character, the series has scared a lot of people away. There are now 10 titles in the genre, but only got cult following on the PSP with Monster Hunter Freedom 2 in the US and eventually Monster Hunter Tri on the Wii. With Nintendo being the main partner for Capcom's Monster Hunter Games now, they decided to create an updated version of Monster Hunter Tri called Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate for the 3DS and Wii U. As a Wii U owner, is it worth picking up Monster Hunter just because it's a new game for the system, or should you steer clear of this remake of this hardcore Japanese action RPG? You start off by arriving on an island which has been plagued by earthquakes caused by one of the local monsters, the Lagakaros? You being a fresh hunter to the scene, you're nowhere near ready to face off against it until you can pronounce its name correctly. So, you start off as you do in any RPG, exploring the lands and building up your gear by gathering resources from that said land and the monsters living in the area. The game will start you off slow by tutorializing the basics of the game from what you can do in the town and out in the field. After you've done this, you're ready to fend for yourself and to experiment and discover the array of different in-game mechanics. Similar to Dark Souls, you may need to read a couple of guides online since the game isn't all that self-explanatory with the game mechanics and explaining the benefits of what each weapon does. As a hunter, you're not assigned a class but can equip any of the 12 weapons in the game, which determines what your attacks are and also what abilities you can perform on the field. From the Sword and Shield, which is a great introduction weapon which allows you to block and also use items without having to de-equip your weapons, two-handed swords which are powerful at cutting and inflicting large amounts of damage but are quite slow to use, to the hunting horn that can buff and heal other players. It's kind of liberating since you can change halfway through the game, but unless you're willing to experiment, you may get stuck into using one weapon only like I did. It would have been nice to have had a tutorial for each of the weapons. When you've decided on your desired weapon, it's time to accept a quest from the guild. These quests range from gathering materials from the field and hunting down various monsters terrorizing the citizens of the islands, from the great jaggies all the way up to the terrifying Raphions. You however can't go charging off to murder these beasts. You need to prepare by bringing potions, meats, traps, paintballs and many more. These will help you tackle these larger than life beasts who have the upper hand with larger life pools and stamina. The guild will provide some basic resources for the hunt, but they may not be enough to take down the beast. You can make the items yourself by gathering materials on the field and combining them together, or buy the basic items from the shop. Combining is nice and simple to do, and the game will let you know what items will combine with the other, so there isn't any time wasted doing failed experiments. Once you've got yourself ready, it's time to go hunting. The first thing you'll notice when you play Monster Hunter is each of the maps are split into mini areas connected by load screens. The first objective is to hunt down the monster in one of the numbered areas. Once you've tracked down the monster, you'll want to watch its attacks and determine how to block or avoid the damage. Because the first thing you don't want to do is go charging in blindly because you will get squished. Each of the monsters has a range of abilities from iconic fireballs and lightning breaths to the unusual status affliction monsters and also being able to call in other monsters to help them. You've got to identify these tells and be ready to handle them. The next thing you want to do is attack the beastie, but how can you tell if you're inflicting damage if there's no user interface telling you how much health the monster has? Well, they may start stumbling, you may damage or cut off limbs in battle, or there may be saliva coming out of their mouths indicating they're weakening. When this happens, the monster will try to escape to a different area of the map to heal up by eating the other wildlife or by sleeping off the damage you've inflicted. Most monsters will generally follow this pattern, but with their own personal abilities determining where they will run off to and how. To not lose track of them, you'll want to throw a paintball on the monster so you can keep track of them on the map. The combat is also very different from other action games by not having a lock-on system. Your weapons can't be cancelled out when you press a button as well, so you better hope you hit the mark or there's a good chance you'll miss and they will counter you. There are other things you may need to be aware of as well. Is your weapon strong enough to pierce the monster's armour? You'll notice in the corner your weapon has a sharpness level indicated by the weapon's colour. The more you attack with the monster, the more blunt and damaged the blade becomes, and more likely the weapon will bounce off the monster and not do any damage. You can resharpen your weapons by using whetstones, which can restore the weapon's maximum sharpness. These are the major beginning tips when playing Monster Hunter, but there is so much more which I won't get into this review. So why are you going out to butcher these sweet, innocent, adorable wannabe dinosaurs? Well, by killing or capturing the monster, you are gaining materials which you can craft into stronger armour and weapons. Each weapon can be upgraded down different weapon paths that may have higher damage, elemental damage, status afflicting, higher sharpness, and many more. Each piece of armor comes with stat bonuses which activates when you gain the right amount of one bonus. Generally you will need to have the full set of armor to receive all the bonuses from increased defense, higher elemental resistance, or to how quickly you can run and use items. It's like a single player MMO, grinding to get better gear to progress to the next tier of difficulty. As an old school World of Warcraft player, I started to feel that itch again. You get to that trance of saying, just one more hunt. Just one more hunt, even though you just said that 10 hunts ago. When you return to do the upgrading, you have options to send out ships to foreign lands to look for treasures to trade, upgrade your farm so you can create items quicker without going out to hunt, and chat to the locals. The single player took me around 20 to 30 hours to complete, but that's just the beginning of the game. You will unlock a new tier monster hunts, aka the new Game Plus mode, where you will face harder versions of the monsters you've faced already with new abilities, more health and damage, and brand new monsters as well you've never encountered. You won't be alone in this journey though, since you can tackle these monsters with some mini AI allies you unlock in the story called Cha-Cha and Kambaba. They are good at distracting the monsters and can be upgraded by giving them new masks and new dances, but you may find these AI companions aren't up to scratch to tackle the higher difficulty hunts, so you can always join up with other players in local Wi-Fi through the 3DS or play with people around the world online. Here you can start a new series of hunts that scale in difficulty faster than the single player hunts. This is because there can be up to 4 players inflicting damage on the monster. It's a great way to grind materials as well with allies. Then there is an arena mode where you'll be given certain equipment, weapon and armor to defeat special boss monsters. It's a nice way to learn some of the different weapons in the game. There is even DLC content being added to the game with new monsters and new challenges to try, and it's all free. There is a lot to do in this game which will keep you busy for a long time. With this being an upgraded Wii game, Monster Hunter Ultimate 3 is a pretty game, and with upgraded HD graphics, the monsters you'll encounter are intimidating and the world they inhabit feels untouched by man. Don't expect next gen graphics, but the game's charm will keep you going for a long time, from how the characters run away from monsters to how alive the monsters seem to be as well. Music is excellent and suits the mood of the game in and out of combat, but there isn't a lot of tracks in the game, so you'll hear a lot of repeats. The one thing I can fault the game for is not having a good database or guide to have access to explain all the different systems in the game. It has that Dark Souls mentality where you have to discover it all by yourself or with other gamers. I ended up having my tablet and PC on standby if I needed to find the locations of certain materials to upgrade certain weapons and armor. The control system is quite odd at first since you can't pause inside battles, but after a while you'll get used to it. If you play in a Wii U gamepad, you can put all user interface elements on the pad and have a clear screen. I found this makes the game more tricky since I wasn't focused on the combat when I kept looking at the tablet every minute. The final verdict? Monster Hunter Ultimate is a must-have title for any Wii U user who likes a deep action game. I would highly recommend this game if you like MMOs or third-person action games such as Dark Souls, Prince of Persia and Dragon Dogma. Monster Hunter veterans will have a lot of new stuff to do as well here. If you've not got a Wii U, there is no better time than now to start an investment with the console. Prices are being slashed at the moment, and with the games such as Pikmin 3, Wonderful 101 and Rayman Legends on the way, Monster Hunter will keep you busy for a long time. If you've enjoyed this review, let me know in the comments below and consider subscribing to my channel. If you want to hunt with me as well in Monster Hunter Ultimate 3, add my ID. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.